All right, this is episode number one of the All Five Rounds MMA show. Not really a podcast. This is brought to you by Dialogue. It is a new platform in which you can broadcast live audio content over the internet. Now, I use Dialogue because as an MMA writer, my name is Ty O'Keefe. I write for Fansided MMA and the Fight Network. I get a little ahead of myself here. But as an MMA writer, I think Dialogue has limitless potential to reach MMA fans who don't have a lot of time to listen to hours of podcasts and things like that. But anyways, to get started, just go to dialogue.com. It is extremely easy, very self-explanatory. You can get started just by clicking on host a call and basically just talk about whatever you're passionate about, whether it's knitting or knife fighting. It doesn't really matter. So, as I said, my name is Ty O'Keefe. I am absolutely pleased and privileged to be here tonight. But most importantly, I am, just over the moon about having one of my best friends in the entire world as my co-host. I've been friends with this guy since 1994. I'm not just going to leave it at that in terms of how old we are. But phenomenal athlete. Also dipped his hand into the amateur fight market a little bit here and there. He's trained in MMA. Very intelligent guy, and we are absolutely fortunate to have him. His name is Darren Laux, and as I said, one of my best friends in the world. Darren, are you there?
I'm here, man. Ty, thank you so much for that wonderful intro. I'm just, listen, man, I'm honored to be on the show with you and all the credentials that you come with the MMA journalist scene and sports in general, man.
Well, I appreciate it. My friends think I'm bigger than I am, so I'll take that because I mean, that makes it all worthwhile to me. We got a lot to talk about. Basically, all five rounds is gonna. I host another show with Craig Allen, known as the Toctagon, and that's a UFC only kind of show. On this show, we're going to talk about not just the UFC, but all MMA as much as possible. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to make myself look like a liar because the biggest news this week is UFC news. So tonight, we're going to stick to the UFC news. I know there's a Pro Fight League event tonight that was on Facebook and NBC to you folks in the States who have access to that. So there's going to be plenty to talk about in the next couple of days. But ideally, what Darren and I plan to do is just kind of give you guys 20 to 25, maybe no more ever than 30 minutes of short analysis and debate, fight breakdowns, possibly some fighter interviews, lots of rambling. And we're going to act like we know what we're talking about, and because we kind of do. And the thing it is that you can call in live or access the show after the fact. But we're going to try to cover it with a broad stroke. But as I said, enough of me talking. We got lots of UFC to ramble about. So last weekend, as many of you guys know, Dustin Poirier kind of avenged that knee to the head that Eddie Alvarez gave him, finished Eddie Alvarez, pushing himself further into the lightweight title discussion, which is unbelievably crowded. And I know my co-host Darren would like to say some things on that and what he sees next for maybe Poirier or Alvarez or Jose Aldo or some things that happened at UFC Calgary last week. So, Darren, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, when I watched the Alvarez fight, and just the way that the controversial ending, not controversial and such, but the mistake that Alvarez made with the downwards elbow completely turning the tides to that fight. A Dustin Poirier win, I mean, it's big. He's definitely a star on the rise in the lightweight division. However, I don't know if I can see him, facing a Conor Khabib winner. I don't think he's quite there yet. I think if he's on his way up, so maybe waiting for Tony Ferguson, or maybe perhaps somebody coming up like Kevin Lee, but I don't know where he goes after the fight on the weekend.
That's actually a really good point about Kevin Lee as well. I hadn't thought of that. Kevin Lee wouldn't be a bad way to test the waters, simply because Kevin Lee did have that interim title fight with Tony Ferguson last fall. That I don't think Kevin Lee deserved that interim title fight at all. So I mean, you say what you want about that, but Kevin Lee did put together a long string of wins. He's a very aggressive, explosive guy. It'd be interesting to see how Dustin Poirier dealt with the pressure of Kevin Lee, but at the same time, I mean, I guess does Kevin Lee really put on more pressure than Eddie Alvarez? I mean, really? So it's going to be big questions, but unfortunately, none of it's going to move ahead until we see the conclusion of Conor Khabib. Really, right? I mean,
right, and I mean, you know, Conor and Khabib, the winner or the loser of that, I mean, maybe then you look at them with Tony Ferguson, and then you see what happens in the fallout for Dustin Poirier. But that could be such a long waiting period for Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
I feel like his stock will just continue to drop if that's what happens. And I think he needs to fight sooner than later. To ride the momentum of this Eddie Alvarez win and to continue on with that. But I think he needs a legit fighter. Maybe Edson Barboza if Kevin Lee is the guy.
Edson Barboza, another good idea. That's a hell of an idea. Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Although, I don't know if we're gonna see anything because Poirier is gonna be risking everything if he fights again, right?
Well, I guess it depends how you look at that because I don't know who's going to give him a title shot after what happened. I mean, he was getting mauled by Eddie Alvarez on the ground at the, before the downward elbow.
Yeah. So do you think though? But do you honestly think that he's ready now for a title shot, or Poirier's got to win one more fight?
No, he's got to win one more, and it's got to be a legit fighter in the top 3 to 5 to say, yeah, you're worthy of Conor or Khabib. In my opinion, anyways, because to me, he just doesn't have the resume of top level guys that he beat, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. And like Daniel Cormier said, and I've referenced this so many times, I'm a broken record. Cormier said a while back, there's levels to this game, and Dustin Poirier just is not on that Conor Khabib level yet. No. I don't know if he's going to ever get there, but just as of, So anyways, moving on to, let's see. We also I was very impressed with Jose Aldo's knockout or TKO win over Jeremy Stephens. If you like body shots, let me tell you, that was one of the greatest because Jeremy Stephens is no joke, and he was unable to even come close to hiding that pain of the shot that he felt from Jose Aldo last weekend in Calgary. Do you think Jose Aldo can make another run at the title, at the featherweight title, or do you think this is just kind of prolonging the inevitable for Jose Aldo, which would be obviously retirement, even despite the fact he's only 31?
Right. Listen, first of all, to go back to the body shot comment, if you like body shots, you should watch that entire UFC Calgary again. There was a plethora of liver shots, body shot combinations to show how effective they are in MMA. But as far as Jose Aldo goes, you know what? To be honest, I think he at the very least should get the loser of Max Holloway and Brian Ortega. But
that's a popular opinion. That's a popular. That's a popular opinion.
Yeah, I can see him getting the winner. I mean, he's got the win over Frankie Edgar. He's got now Jeremy Stephens. Well, those guys are all notches, underneath him.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, he was the king of that division before a 13-second or 15-second, fight changed his life. So, I'm okay with him fighting, the winner of Max Holloway and Ortega, and I'm also okay with him fighting the loser to see if he can, fight the champ after that. I'm okay with either one. I don't think he should have to go down and fight any of these guys though coming up.
Yeah, and I agree that I didn't like him taking the Stephens fight. I was surprised by it just because, again, there's levels to this game, and Stephens is obviously not on all those levels. But, I guess we're going to have to wait and see if Jose Aldo's win over Stephens was more indicative of someone bouncing back on the rise who's going to make another charge of the belt, or was it more due to the fact that Jose Aldo's 3 losses to Holloway and one to McGregor came against elite fighters, and Steven is an elite fighter. And the next time Jose Aldo steps in the octagon against an elite fighter, we're going to see the same result that we saw in the 3 fights versus Holloway and McGregor. So who knows?
Jose Aldo is elite in every sense of the word MMA. You look at his resume. You look at all the wins he's had. He was the king of that division. And, to lose to only the best guys that came up that were younger lions, so to speak, in that division, to me, that doesn't say that he's broken down and he needs to look at retiring. The way fighters do it, they always, I think, feel like they have one left, even when they're kind of on a downward swing. And that's why some guys always stay on a little too long when they should probably call it quits. But I don't think he's quite there yet. He's been beaten by the best that the division had to offer, but only the very best.
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point.
I think he's got lots of fight left, and I'm okay with, like I said, him fighting Brian Ortega or Max Holloway. I'm okay with either one, the winner or the loser.
Very good point. You're right. He is, I guess you're right. He is still elite. He defines elite still until further notice, I guess.
Exactly.
So this weekend, UFC 227, we have 2 title fights, both rematches. The bantamweight title fight between TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt, and obviously Dillashaw knocked out Garbrandt in the second round of their first meeting. And Demetrius Johnson will be going for his 12th straight title defense when he takes on Henry Cejudo for a second time. And Johnson knocked out Henry Cejudo, I believe it was in April of 2016, a little more than 2 years ago. He knocked him out in the opening round. Personally, I am so tired of Demetrius Johnson fighting in this division. He should have taken on Dillashaw when he had a chance. And I honestly think that the fact that Dillashaw and Garbrandt are fighting on the same card as Demetrius Johnson is no coincidence. Because obviously, if the idea in a perfect world, it'd be great to see Johnson take on the winner of Dillashaw Garbrandt. And if they both fight Saturday night, they're therefore on the same schedule, basically moving forward, barring injuries, of course, and things like that. Right. But what are your thoughts on the Demetrius Johnson situation, whether it's Saturday or his place in the division or whatever?
Well, I mean, he is clearly the king of the flyweight division, has been since he touched ground there. There is nobody left for him, as far as I'm concerned. There's the whole division is just not on his level yet. Yeah. Which is crazy because you've got such a high skill level fighter fighting at that flyweight division, and yet he's just still, head and shoulders above them.
And he has been for 7 years. I mean, that's insane.
It is insane. But he's that good. His skill level, the way it's not one particular skill that he has that makes him a great fighter, particularly in that division. It's the way he puts all of those skills together and amalgamates them into this perfect mixed martial artist. That's what makes Demetrius Johnson so special. And I don't see anything left for him at the flyweight division at all. Him going, to bantamweight, obviously everyone would love to see him fight either Dillashaw or Cody Garbrandt. To be honest, I think Demetrius Johnson is a better fighter than both of those guys in terms of skill levels. The size, however, could be an issue, but I really do believe at the lighter weights, the size isn't as big of an issue as a lot of people perceive it to be. 10 pounds, first of all, really isn't a lot.
You're right. You're right. That's a good point because these heavyweights and light heavyweights, even middleweights, it's a different ball game.
Different ball game. That's right. And these guys rely so much more on combinations, skills, transitions and things like that. The one punch knockout power isn't as big of an issue. So I don't see him having a hard transition. And to be honest, I think he's a better fighter than the top, including the champion and the top 2 or 3 guys in that division as well.
In the bantamweight division.
In the bantamweight division.
So then, Brad Pickett and Dominic Cruz, the only 2 people to ever beat Demetrius Johnson. And Dominic Cruz, Demetrius Johnson was his last fight at 135 before the creation of the flyweight division, I believe. Regardless of when it was, do you think, I'm big on Demetrius Johnson facing Dominic Cruz because obviously Cruz is still unbelievably elite in my books. I mean, this guy, Dominic Cruz, is so talented. But it would give Johnson a chance to avenge that loss. Do you like that fight?
Yeah, I like it in terms of the fact that it gives him a chance to avenge the loss. And like you said, Dominic Cruz, when you're talking skillful MMA fighters, I mean, he, like you said, he's elite.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys who have figured out the Dominic Cruz puzzle, particularly standing.
Yeah.
So do I like that fight? Absolutely. Do I think it'll be different though? I think it will be. I think Demetrius Johnson
Yeah.
would have Dominic Cruz's number in a rematch.
Really?
And he could.
You're big on DJ. I mean, a lot of people are, and I see your point. He's so well rounded. I mean, it's a good point.
It's just not that he's so well rounded in all skill sets, which he is. It's just, to me, when I watch him fight, it amazes me how well he puts them together seamlessly and flawlessly.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's some of the things that he does in the octagon live in front of 20,000 people are some things that some martial artists would have a difficulty doing in the practice room, training with a partner at, a third of the speed.
Yeah.
So
you're right. He is world class. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yes.
What did you think? Did you see Garbrandt Cruz, when I couldn't believe how elusive Garbrandt was, to the point where he did the robot for a few split seconds, and Cruz was swinging at air that entire fight? That amazed me. That he made Cruz look that incompetent, when we know Dominic Cruz is the furthest thing from incompetent in the octagon. And what did you think of that?
Man, when I saw that fight, I was completely blown away, because Cody was able to figure out what all the other Team Alpha Male guys couldn't.
Yeah.
He was able to pick up on the patterns, and he had the speed, the quickness, and the skills in terms of boxing. I think that's what really shined for me is, the head movement, the body